We created Free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I was going to ask Peter to come up and host with me, but then I forgot to ask him before. So, welcome to Free Recovery Community, everybody. Free Recovery is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. We gather here every Saturday night and just explore topics related to recovery and spirituality together. So the way the night's going to go down for anyone who might be visiting for the first time or maybe hasn't been here in a minute, we're going to start here in just a minute with some celebrations. So celebrations are those things that are going good in life. I think sometimes we need to share them with each other just because they're great and we want to celebrate, but also so that other people in the room can see the good things that are happening and know that it's possible for them too. After that, we'll have about a 10 to 15 minute message. We're going to continue with our series on Two Things Can Be True. That's called Both And. Tonight we are talking discipline and freedom. How those two topics can feel like they're different, but they're actually pretty dependent on each other. And then we'll slow it down for a minute and meditate for the length of a song, followed by a guest storyteller. Mark Kay is our guest storyteller tonight. Fresh off of making the rich white women of Lincoln Park look fabulous all day. So thank you for coming here after a long day of work, Mark. We're really grateful for you joining us tonight. And then we'll go into heartbreaks. Those are those things that as a community, when you share those, we get to care for each other. We get to pray for you and support you, and you get to know that you're not going through whatever it is you're going through alone. And then we'll pray and head out. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
Good? Any amendments proposed? No, nothing? Okay, perfect. So there is one thing we start every Saturday night off with, and it's just a reminder to all of us. I was actually talking to someone this week that hadn't been here in a while, and he was apologizing for all the reasons he hadn't been here. I was like, we don't do shame. Don't worry about it. Just come back when you can. But don't use that as an excuse. So on the count of three, we all say we don't do shame together. So if you'll... Yeah. We do shade, not shame. They're very close. So anyways, on the count of three, let's all say it together. We don't do shame. So 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. Gosh, I almost said, say it with your chest, but then I realized we call that toxic masculinity, right? So anyways, just a few quick announcements before we get started. The very first one is connect with us. So whether it's your first time, you haven't been here, or maybe you just haven't filled out a connect card, we have connect cards in the back over there. And so if you fill one of those out, you can give them back to me. If you need any help, Ash will be around. I just volunteered him. He's been here enough. He knows what to do. And so fill out one of those. We'll give you a coffee mug. There's some information over on the table as well. So fill one out. You'll get a weekly newsletter, and then if you fill out your phone number, you'll probably get a text from me asking you to go to coffee. So just be on the lookout for that. The second thing is volunteers. So we've had some volunteer turnover lately. Raya, let's hear it for Raya. It was his first night coming and helping set up. Aaliyah didn't wear her setup shoes, but she still put up about a third of the chairs and set up the tables and stuff. So the two of them, Peter was here helping set up tonight. Our setup volunteers really are the people that probably know each other the best, right? As you come in and you get that extra 30, 45 minutes, the ask is every other week to come at 5. And so it's not a big heavy lift, but it does give you a chance to connect with the people a little more. The next thing, and I think it's the Free turns 1 year on September 19th is the service. Actually, this last Sunday was the 1 year from our preview, so it was when we debuted. But then a month later, we started our weekly gatherings, and we've been going every week since then. We take 2 weeks off a year, so we're trucking right along. So we're gonna have a special, just like cake and stuff like that to celebrate. Bob will actually be our guest storyteller that night. I saved it. Whenever I was doing lunch with him a few weeks ago, I go, oh, you have a lot of good stuff to say. So come out that night and hear all the wisdom that he's carried for. How long have you been sober? 44 years. So, and if you're ever talking to someone and you're like, how did you go through all that shit? And you're still like a kind person that's like pleasant and enjoyable to be around, I think spirituality is probably the answer to that, right? Is how we can like navigate those things that could easily make us bitter, hard people, but yet we still go through life with joy. And finally, this might be the last week we announce this because tickets are on sale. We're gonna go November 7th. After our gathering's done, we're just gonna all go to the Orville Peck concert because I like Orville Peck, and because, fun fact about Orville Peck, he's a gay cowboy. And whenever I saw him, and I'm like, if he can do country music, I can be a preacher, right? And he does it with so much like authenticity and all that. So it's just gonna be a little outing. I think tickets are like $65 for general admission. I know Mark will probably be there. Yep, the last Orville Peck concert, I just happened to run into him at the very front of the room, so I know he's a big fan as well. Okay, so I think that's all the announcements we have for the night. Now we're gonna go ahead and get things started with celebrations. And as I mentioned earlier, they're just, if you think of your share at a 12-step meeting as the whole email, a celebration's just the subject line. So just kind of let us know what's good going on. If you raise your hand, I'll get you the microphone. And the reason we have microphones is because people do join us online and from treatment centers. So for a room this size, you might be like, Seth, you're loud, why do y'all need microphones? It's just so that people online and in treatment centers can engage with us. So.
This past Monday, I celebrated 7 months.
Woo!
Hi, everyone. My name is Freddie.
Hey, Freddie.
I am celebrating 14 days.
Woo!
It hasn't been easy. I had this most beautiful graduation at Bonaventure just a month and a half ago, and it was a very, very beautiful day for me. There were a lot of people that addressed so many beautiful things about me, about my friendship with them, and I felt like really, really, really loved. And I, well, you know, when you finish your program at Bonaventure, you had to move out. So I moved out. I got the most beautiful apartment. I was, you know, just doing very, very, very well. But the difference between this relapse and the other relapse is that this time around I got the best tools, you know, to go through those dark moments, and I was actually using them. I was actually doing very well. One of my closest friends from high school, like a very, very close friend from high school, just passed away, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't. It was just so difficult for me. I mean, I did not know how her passing affected me, and so I made the decision to use, and I did not feel proud of that. I actually used for 2 days, and I was able to recognize that I was doing what I was doing was just wrong. So I used for 2 days, and I stopped, and I said, you know what, I can lose everything all over again. Mm-hmm. So I stopped. I reconnect. I approached, I reach out to my support system, and they have been amazing. But I still don't feel well about my relapse. But again, if I wouldn't have relapse, I would be celebrating almost 2 years already. But that's okay. That's fine. I'm feeling much better. I'm in a better place now. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to see your happy faces, and I'm gonna keep coming back. Awesome. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Freddie. Glad you're back. Thank you. 2 days, that's a celebration because we don't always get to decide when the stuff is done with us, right? We could probably take a few more even though the timer ran out, so.
Hi, my name's Ed. Last night I celebrated 18 months sobriety.
Woo! It's crazy that it's already been 6 months since your year.
Hi, my name is Ash. After kind of month and a half of not having a job, I found one on Wednesday. They pretty much offered me the job at the interview, so I start next Wednesday.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chrissy. I start my new job too next Wednesday at Starbucks.
Woo! You're gonna have to dye your hair blue and get a nose ring. Yeah. Isn't that required to be a barista? Well, awesome. It seems like there's some good things going on in everyone's lives. So if you want, when we're done tonight, just hang out a little bit after. Share what's going good. People actually care what's going good in your life here, I've noticed. So tonight we're talking about discipline and freedom, 2 words that might have interesting connotations, right? Discipline, the ruler and the nun. Freedom, the redneck and the t-shirt. But we'll get there. So in 2020, it kind of threw everyone's lives for a wrench. I think we're all probably tired of people talking about 2020, right? Getting a little annoying. But for me, I just started caring about my fitness in maybe like October of 2019 for the first time. I was like finally getting into the rhythms. I was finally starting to eat right. I was finally starting to go to the gym. And then 2020 hit. And I was like, crap, this place that I had started using to get fit, to look good, I couldn't just go into anymore. And I was faced with this like kind of challenge. I could have either just like vegged out on the couch and let all those goals go away, or I could find a new path to kind of be dedicated to and make sure that fitness journey didn't go away. So I made a decision. I wasn't gonna put my fitness goals to the side, but I was gonna become a runner. Has anyone ever tried to become a runner? Yeah, Justin runs all the time. So I did the one thing that recovery had kind of taught me to do. I reached out to my friend Crystal. So Crystal's kind of this bad bitch is what I was gonna say. And I can say bad bitch, yeah. And so Crystal does something. She runs 100-mile races. And she doesn't do it for, no one made her do it. She just did it for fun. But in recovery, we kind of do this thing where if we want to get sober, we reach out to someone who has been sober a minute. If we want to get our financial goals in line, we reach out to someone who has their finances together, right? So I reached out to Crystal. And I asked her a question. I was like, Crystal, how does one become a runner? And I was hoping that she would give me some magic key, maybe point me to a website with some special running plans on it. But what Crystal actually told me was one thing, one word. It was consistency. She said, if you run every day, and if you run at least a mile a day, eventually you'll start running faster, you'll start running longer. But the key to being a runner is consistency. Isn't so many things in life like that? To get good at anything, you gotta be bad at it first, but you gotta keep doing it no matter how good you are. So I took that pretty seriously, and so I started running a mile because I'm an alcoholic, right? So like I don't halfway do things. Like I didn't decide to go to church, I decided to become a pastor, right? I don't halfway do things, so I was getting on these running groups online and I learned a thing about streaking. Anyone know what streaking is? I'm not talking trench coat at the Super Bowl. I'm talking about running at least a mile a day. And there's people who have ran 10,000 days in a row. So I decided I was going to run at least a mile a day. And so at first I was going to do it for a week, and then I was going to do it for a month, and then I wanted to get 100 days. And eventually I did 365 days of running at least a mile a day. I had days where I ran whenever I didn't feel my best. I had days where I ran when my ankle was hurting a little bit, or days whenever I had all kinds of excuses not to run. And even if it was slow, and even if I didn't do it, I was committed to being consistent about running. And in that year, inside of those 365 days, I went from where I couldn't even run a mile to where in 1 year I ran 2 marathons and 2 ultra marathons. This picture that's about to show up behind me, my shirt is still on, so I know it was in the first 30 miles of a 53-mile race. Look at that. That's not easy running. I was running up hills and shit. I don't know why I did that. To achieve the freedom to do what I wanted, which was to become a runner, it took discipline. The discipline was the mile a day, and the freedom was the marathon, achieving a goal that I thought was impossible when I started. There was no version of that year where I skipped the boring part of running the mile and got to do what I wanted to do, which was running the marathons or ultimately ultra marathons. Quaker theologian D. Elton Trueblood put it this way when he said, "Discipline is the price of freedom." So at first, discipline and freedom kind of feel like opposites. How can a routine, doing things repeatedly, going through the hard stuff, actually be the same as liberation? If we look at what that sentence actually says, because at first it feels like it doesn't make sense. It actually says that freedom costs us something. And we all came into recovery knowing that there was a freedom if we just stopped using. But even that freedom cost us something. It cost us the life that we were comfortable with. It costs us some of the people we knew. I was talking to someone about this earlier, that like people thought I was dead whenever I was about 6 months sober because I just blocked every single one of them that reached out to me. And I would suggest anyone new in recovery doing that. And then 6 months sober, this girl walked into a 12-step meeting and she goes, "We thought you were dead." And it was just because I just cut them off. It cost me so many of these relationships that I thought mattered at the time. Freedom costs us the resentments that we can no longer hold on to and still stay sober. But when we come into recovery, we come looking for a better version of freedom than just stopping stuff or just letting stuff go. We are looking for freedom from waking up not knowing what we did the night before. Anyone relate to that? I think I was almost relieved whenever I started doing meth instead of drinking alcohol because I at least knew the fires I needed to put out instead of waking up from a blackout and being like, fuck, what the hell did I just do? We're looking for freedom from spending all of our money on a short-term fix, or freedom from wrecking our bodies, or freedom from ruining our relationships. Page 151 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous actually says, "We became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens of his mad realm." Bill W. was quite the drama queen, right? Stories of shivering denizens of his mad realm. But there's actually a really important topic here. We were subjects of a king. We might have thought we had freedom, but that doesn't sound like freedom. That actually sounds like the opposite of freedom. We weren't customers, we weren't even users, we were subjects. That's a word about who controls us. We did not govern our own lives, drugs and alcohol did, and for those of us that are loved ones or spiritual refugees in the room, we've all had things that govern our lives. Gossip can govern our lives. Hate can govern our lives. And for us right now, self-entitled hate can easily govern our lives too. But for those of us in the room that are addicts, we most certainly didn't govern our own lives. Drugs and alcohol did. We might have thought that we were free when we were drinking and using, but we were actually under complete control of our addictions. But what does that word freedom actually even mean, right? Outside of a t-shirt that said "freedom isn't free" on some redneck or some 4th of July celebration in the backwoods. It's so funny. Does anyone think it's funny that people say that we're the land of the free and the home of the brave? I'll save that for another topic. But there are 2 different kinds of freedoms that are worth noting. That freedom from addiction, that's a freedom from. That's the gates of hell opening up to let us out. That's not being controlled by a substance. But there's also another kind of freedom. There's freedom too, and that's actually being who we want to be in life. That's a unique kind of freedom. That's an abundant kind of freedom that is actually so much larger than just being released from something. But getting out is not the same as getting somewhere. When we first come into recovery, it's all about getting out of the addiction cycles. But when we stay, it's about getting somewhere and doing something with our lives. So how do we break free, which is freedom from, and how do we stay free, which is freedom to? The answer is simple. The answer is discipline. Practice, showing up and doing the thing, one day at a time. So let's talk about what discipline actually means. You say discipline, and any words that come up when you think discipline, and Ash, don't get the right answer here. Wrong answers only, right? Ash always gets the point that I'm trying to prove. When we say discipline, what do you think? Punishment, right? A nun with a ruler at an elementary school, right? Your dad getting mad at you, a judge that's giving you a sentence or probation or making you go to rehab. For a lot of us, discipline is a word that was done to us, usually by someone who was angry and called it teaching. Is that a fair, common assumption of discipline? But the word didn't start there. Discipline and disciple are actually the same Latin word. It's disciplinia. It means instruction or learning, what a student does. That's a lot simpler than a belt or a probation officer, right? So why can discipline often feel like a burden and not like liberation, which is what it actually is? First, we have to recognize that using only felt like freedom. But it was a kind of false freedom. Sure, we thought we were doing what we wanted, but the second we tried to stop, we realized that using was actually not freedom at all. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, talks about how we pay for everything. It just depends on when we pay and when we get the reward. Because the costs of your good habits are often, this is actually backwards. This is right. The cost of your good habits are in the present. You pay now, receive later. The cost of your bad habits are actually in the future. You receive now, you pay later. It's like a payday cash advance. Anyone in here ever got any of those? Any of you have any of them floating right now? Okay, good. I wasn't going to help pay for it. But imagine if life was just a payday cash advance. That's basically what using is. It's stealing from your future to have something that feels like happiness right now. And that phrase actually says something bigger than habits. It says that everything costs something sometimes. Everything. Nothing we do has no consequences. The only question is when we pay those consequences. Discipline requires putting in the work now so that we can enjoy the future. Drugs and alcohol might bring some form of joy now, but will always catch up with us. And that's the whole trick, and that's the lie that it gives us. It felt like freedom because we just hadn't paid the price yet. The problem is, the longer we drank or used, the less fun it became and the more it cost us. Kind of like that payday cash advance, right? So freedom and discipline only look like opposites. We just have a choice to make. Short-term cost, long-term freedom. Short-term freedom, long-term cost. And I'm not going to lie to you about the front end of that. Recovery, especially early recovery, can be really hard. It requires a lot of discipline. It's breaking old habits. That's hard. It's leaving what is comfortable. That's hard. That's the price we have to pay to break the grips, to have freedom in the future. And that takes discipline. That takes learning. That takes growth and dedication. And it isn't only the drugs and alcohol, whatever your cage is. You could be trapped in a cage of money. I've been there. You've been trapped in a cage of personal relationships or physical health. And this is something we're not naturally good at. Our own recovery literature actually echoes this. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 88 says, we alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. That sounds bad if God's going to beat us with a belt. It's not that bad if God's going to teach us how to learn and grow, right? So basically the entire recovery program we work is an act of discipline. praying the third step prayer, owning our part, remembering to meditate. These are all things we practice that eventually lead to freedom. Freedom from being controlled by our emotions. I used to be so controlled by our emotions, and some days I still am. Freedom from being dominated by resentment. That freedom is the essence of spiritual awakening. We put in a little bit of work in our spiritual life. Some call it maintenance, some people call it improving our conscious contact, but it is just a little bit of work for a whole lot of freedom. There is no amount of work that could transform our lives from what they were to what they are, or even what they're becoming. That freedom comes from a connection with something greater than ourselves. Or we can choose a little bit of false freedom now and pay for it with a lot of pain in the future. That comes from running on our own short-sighted self-will. We don't typically achieve spiritual enlightenment by accident. And if you do, it might just look like spiritual enlightenment. I have a friend who every time he goes out, he finds the magic key to his future. And then he goes back out again. You'd think he was a treasure hunter. But anyways, and some of us are lucky enough to have God come to us, but most of us have to seek God to find that freedom and God. And once we find it, we still have to be intentional about keeping it. Because we can practice discipline all day, but if it isn't in the pursuit of a connection with something bigger than ourselves, it is still kind of its own cage. That's not freedom, that's just a bigger, longer leash. Freedom in God is a whole different thing. A discipline to learn and grow closer to God, to be more connected to our higher power, to co-create with the spirit of the universe. Now that is something that hits completely different. Discipline in the spiritual realm really is what we're after here. That mile a day, done in maintenance of our spiritual condition. If we put the same dedication into learning and growing in our spiritual lives that we have reserved for other goals, we can get a whole kind of freedom that we could have never imagined before. But what does that actually look like? I want to be careful here, because when people say spiritual life, a lot of us picture something that we're never going to be able to achieve. An hour a day in prayer, or a retreat into the mountains, or maybe moving to a monastery and just emitting positive vibes into the universe. I think sometimes we think spiritual life is reserved for like some other group of people. All those things I just listed are probably the 300-mile ultra marathon. No one starts there. And I didn't start running, and I sure didn't start there with God. I didn't start running the ultra marathon. So here's what a mile looks like. Anyone can improve their spiritual life. There's the story of the guy with the whiskey and the milk. I think his name is Jim. When he relapsed, it said because he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. That was why he did it. So if our only task is to enlarge our spiritual life, we don't have to achieve a spiritual life that looks like any big thing or any one thing. We just have to work on growing. That's discipline. What does the 11th step say? The 11th step says we improved our conscious contact. That means we're not looking for perfection. We're not looking for a destination. We're just looking to be always growing in our spiritual life. That's a lot easier to do, right? So what do we do when we have nowhere to start? What's the mile in the morning when we're looking to improve our spiritual life? What if in the morning, before we pick up our phones, we just say a few sentences? It can be a prayer to a deity you don't know. It could be words to set your mind intentionally, right? You don't have to download anyone's dogma to start praying or to start growing a spiritual life. You don't have to accept my version of God or Martha's version of God or Ed's version of God or Peter's version of God. You just have to start trying something to put a world that's bigger than yourself. What if your prayer is just, God, please help me stay sober today? That's easy. What if you just took 2 minutes of quiet time in the morning? You're going to be bad at it at first, but 2 minutes, we can do anything for 2 minutes. Maybe you just pick a guided meditation off of YouTube and listen to it. That's how I started meditating. Guided meditations on YouTube. If I listened to them now, I'd probably make fun of myself for how cheesy that shit sounded. What if the spiritual practice we tried today is pausing when we were agitated instead of reacting? It sounds like some life hack right now, but don't do it and you'll learn your spiritual condition gets decreased pretty quick. What if at night we look back on our day and just thank God for keeping us sober or safe today? And when you can, do something for somebody who just can't pay you back, that service. I basically outlined all the spiritual principles in a 30-second task. That's it. It takes less time to do all of those spiritual tasks than it took for you to walk from the Brown Line to the building today. And over time, if we're consistent, those practices will grow, trust me. You can add journaling. You can add reading of recovery literature or sacred texts. You can add silent meditation. And with that one, you even need to start slow and build more when it feels right. That can all come. And listen, some days it's going to be one of those 14-minute miles. It's going to be slow, and it's going to be grudging, and it's barely going to feel like it counts. You might pray one sentence you don't mean on your way to the car to some being or some entity that you don't know is real. That's fine. That counts. My friend Annie used to always say, trying to pray is praying. And the days you don't want to do it and the days you actually do it are going to be the days that make the real difference. It's not the good days. Anyone can pray on a good day. It's going to be those real hard days that determine if you're disciplined enough. So what are we reaching for then when we do that? Because that's the real question. Consistency towards what? Paul writes in Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your minds. I think transformed is the important word there. Because restraint and transformation aren't the same thing. Restraint is wanting to do something and forcing myself not to do it, which is good in some situations. A lot of us could have used a lot of restraint, right? Transformation is becoming someone who doesn't have to live that way anymore. It's becoming someone who wasn't even tempted and forced to practice restraint. And early recovery requires a lot of restraint. Early on your spiritual journey, no matter where you are, requires a lot of restraint. Sometimes the victory, the best thing you can do today is just not use. But God offers us something more than spending the rest of our lives gritting our teeth and not going backwards. God offers us transformation, and that's why we practice. That's why we use discipline to get to freedom. Prayer, meditation, meetings, services, they aren't spiritual homework. They're ways to make ourselves available to God's transformation. Because God offers the transformation. We just do the practices to let God in. It's usually slowly. Sometimes it's quickly, but it's usually slowly. Something begins to change in us. The thing that once required enormous effort becomes a little bit more natural. We don't learn how to avoid the old life. We become capable of living a new one. That's the freedom that discipline can give us. And here's what I want to leave you with tonight. We might have came in as subjects, whether it to be the materialistic world or alcohol or our emotions. Subjects of a king who governed all of it. Our money, our mornings, our people, our bodies, and he never once asked us permission. That was often drugs and alcohol. And I think a lot of us are quietly afraid of getting free just means finding a better king, something else to obey, a new set of rules and a new way to fail at them. And if that's what your spiritual life is, I ask you, I challenge you, I beg you to reevaluate it. That's not what's being offered. We're not offered another king. We are offered a new way of living. A subject gets governed, but a transformed life gets to be free. King Alcohol is the name for all of those things, took everything I had and gave me nothing back. A life of freedom allows me to be who I was always created to be in the first place. So go run whatever that spiritual mile is for y'all tomorrow. I'm sure there's at least one thing I said that you can try, right? Can we agree to that? One thing. Maybe you pray before you believe anything out there is listening. Maybe you call that person that you need to connect with that you don't feel like calling because you'd rather just hit next on your Netflix. Maybe It's you show up to the meeting or you show up to the thing whenever it doesn't feel like it's working, but just do it anyways. But if you do it on those bad days, you're going to get the benefits of it on those good days. And when you can experience a kind of living that only comes from the freedom that all this discipline creates, you will be grateful for every day you did it when you didn't want to. So for the next few minutes, we're just going to sit together. In whatever position you prefer to meditate, maybe not laying on your neighbor. I usually just like to plant my feet firmly on the ground and put my hands right there, close my eyes and just breathe. We're going to listen to a song that sounds a bit different than our usual songs. And I'm going to invite you to consider what discipline can actually lead us to freedom if we tried it. You all after this. No, it was just to exactly what I was saying, not to play it, even if I prefer a little Brandy Carlisle. I don't know why I looked at the lesbians in the room whenever I said that. So tonight we have, like I said, Mark, I think, was one of the first people I met whenever I moved to Chicago. I think I met you within a few months of moving to Chicago, and he's one of those people where we might like not talk to each other for a few months, and then we go to brunch, and it's like we just saw each other yesterday. So I want to welcome Mark up as our guest storyteller tonight. I looked at your Facebook, and you share mostly like cat videos, the equivalent, not actual cat videos, the actual equivalent. I should have just texted you and asked you one. Doesn't he look so seductive in that picture? You know, I should probably just I should let people just send me their pictures, but they always send them that are like cut off here. I need one that shows the shoulder. So if I ever ask any of you to be the guest storyteller, I need glamour shots, yes. Yeah, perfect. So Mark, for any of the people that don't know you, just start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, what recovery and all that, you know.
Okay, I'm Mark. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is June 12th of 2020. Yeah, because I just had 6 years. I had to think. I'm a COVID baby. I got sober during.
Can you hold it closer?
I got sober during the pandemic. Is this better? Okay. Zoom baby, all of that. And what it was like. My story's not really unique at all. I mean, no, as much as I like to suffer from terminal uniqueness, especially when I came into this program or the rooms. You know, I grew up in a, typically dysfunctional Midwestern suburban family. Neither parent drank, but, there wasn't a lot of good parenting going on either. The first time I ever drank, I blacked out at a holiday party that my parents were at. And, I remember standing in the kitchen 1 minute and then, throwing up in the toilet with my mother standing over me.
Aww. You got drunk with your mom for the first time?
Oh no, not with her. The kids were downstairs, the parents were upstairs. And I drank an entire fifth of vodka, as one does. So yeah, I mean, and that just kind of started, my career. I mean, high school was, I got good grades. I didn't get in trouble. I had a brother and a stepbrother that were much more work. Mm-hmm. So I was the weird looking punk rock kid that wasn't quite.
You don't say.
Well, now keep in mind also that high school was like early 80s suburb of Indianapolis. I did not blend. But I didn't get in trouble. So I was the easy child. Little did they know what I was doing when everybody else was getting in trouble. I mean, I was drinking every weekend. I don't know how I always had money for weed, but I did. I did cocaine for the first time at 16. And it was just kind of, a life of, functioning. I honestly didn't know that I had always drank alcoholically until I had to go into detox and had my first meeting, and I had to go back through the filing cabinet and was like, oh yeah, like from the first drink.
Your drinking never picked up.
Well, yeah. It just was like out of the gate. And for years I functioned. I moved to Chicago in the early 90s with the goal of becoming a club kid, which I did, which opened up a whole another, category of substances to abuse. And working in a club meant you got into all the clubs for free and you didn't pay for drinks. And all the while I was still, I always had a job. I didn't have a lot of consequences.
Yeah, I was kind of similar. Like I had designed a lifestyle where I could do what I wanted and still have the excuses of, oh, I don't drink alone. Yeah, you have a bunch of bar rat friends. Of course you don't drink alone, right? Yeah.
1,000%. And, I only hung out with people that partied like I did. So, of course, everybody I know does this. But and that just kind of went on and on for, you know, it's like cut and paste, really. The scenes changed, the other people changed, you know, and I maintained for a really long time.
Yeah.
Until I didn't.
Yeah.
And it was.
What was that change? What triggered it?
Honestly, I can pinpoint roughly when it started happening. I never used to keep alcohol at home, and I sort of did. You know, I did cocaine throughout the week. You know, a $20 bag didn't last me a week like it used to. I started drinking mugs of wine at work. We served wine. I never. It slowly crept up, and then when I moved into with my husband, now husband, about to be ex-husband, but that's a whole nother story. He was have a drink or two every night, and as an alcoholic, you don't just have a drink or two.
No.
So he would have a drink or two. I was drinking while I was making dinner, you know, and then drinking with dinner, and then cocktails after dinner. And
I'm always baffled by y'all that could party for decades, and then so like ingrained, and then you didn't need to, like, I don't know, kill a family dog while drunk driving in order to get sober. You know,
honestly, it was COVID. COVID was the. I mean, my drinking was escalating for sure up to that. We went on a vacation in February before lockdown, and I remember almost none of it. It was a week in Puerto Vallarta, and the next time I went back to Puerto Vallarta, I was sober, and I didn't remember a thing. And it freaked me out. But
you're one of those guys. Puerto Vallarta every year.
Well, we were. COVID happened. My husband had to move in with his parents to take care of them. They got it early, and then they were fine. They recovered. But I was literally left alone for the entire lockdown.
Okay.
With an unemployment check and a cocaine dealer that made house calls.
Oh yeah.
So that was it. That was it for me. I literally spent 3 months passing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm doing the math. You only lasted 3 months doing that, right?
And I tried to get my shit together and cleaned up for a week, went cold turkey, the worst 3 days of my life. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. And then something happened, I don't even know. I had maintained for about a week, and then he said something that pissed me off. I don't remember what it was. I grabbed the I was hiding booze. I was doing all the
you were fully planning on staying sober for a while with the hidden booze, right?
Totally the stereotypical, like, I kept that in the crisper drawer because he didn't ever go into anything but the snack cupboard. So as long as it was under produce, I was fine.
I'm picturing a domestic. It's not like you ever cook anyways, right?
It was very dysfunctional Donna Reed show for those that get that reference.
Martha got it. So here's the reason that I asked you tonight, of all nights, right?
Yeah.
You know, it was what, like 2-3 weeks ago, we were at breakfast, and you said something to me that like really, really, really sunk in. You said, my life is maybe the biggest like external shit show it's been in years or something. I'm misquoting you.
No,
but I feel free in my soul or something like that, right?
Basically, I am getting divorced after 6 unhappy years of marriage. We're married for 7. The first year I was blackout drunk. I got sober, and then I knew from the get-go that it was wrong. I finally, after, got the nerve, whatever, and externally, my life is a shit show. I had to move out of my house. I had to find an apartment. I was sleeping in guest rooms. And, you know, had to lawyer up. Things have settled, but it's like, this is the most chaotic moment of my life, and I have never been happier. For whatever reason, it's like, for the first time ever in my life, I believe that my higher power will carry me through no matter what. I don't know what happened. It wasn't a white light moment.
Yeah.
It was years of, you know, like you said, I don't always have a great spiritual practice, but I try and at least throw out a serenity prayer while I'm dragging my carcass out of bed or making my bed. I may not get down on my knees and pray. I may not journal. I may not read all my but it's a combination of the little things of like letting somebody merge in front of me, of pausing before I go off, of being kind to the customer service person. It is all of these little acts that have just added up over the years. And I didn't even realize that it was happening until I was talking to somebody one day and I was like, I am genuinely happy. I genuinely feel free. And on the outside, I shouldn't. I'm paying out the ass for legal fees. I'm like, if any of you, it's like, don't do it if you can avoid it. But honestly, I feel like I am going to be okay no matter what. I mean,
I debate like, what is spirituality? What is connection to a God? What is that? And I feel like I'm going to be okay no matter what is probably one of the best definitions of advanced spirituality I've ever heard, right?
And honestly, we say it, but I feel it here. This is where I feel everything. This is where I feel anxiety. This is where I feel like nerves. I feel here that I'm good. I'm like, my higher power has got me, and mine is different from yours. I still don't know what it is after 6 years. It changes on the daily.
Well,
I just know it's not me.
Anyone that knows for sure is probably a lot further behind than the people who still have questions. Come back next week for that topic. Faith and doubt. Awesome, Mark. One more question before we leave. Is there anything that like you've learned the hard way that you wish someone would have told you early in recovery? Or any advice that was exceptionally relevant for you that kind of helped you get to 6 years? Because 6 years is no joke, right?
I adopted the fake it till you make it, but just do it.
Yeah.
Just follow suggestions, go to meetings. Sometimes that's all I do, but I don't ever miss the 2 meetings, and I haven't for years. It's consistency. It's discipline. It's I don't want to go to this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to work with my sponsee, but I do it anyway. It's showing up when I don't want to, and it does fucking get easier. Sorry, can we cuss here?
I think I cussed quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
When
I dropped at least 2 F-bombs and 3
when the
shits.
pastor's dropping F-bombs, I think it's okay.
2.
But yeah, I mean, that's been the biggest thing for me is just, it's faith. Honestly, it's have faith. As scary as it is, as hard as it is, just look at that, everybody around you. Like everybody that I saw around me, there were people like with 6 months that I was amazed by when I had 6 days. And now I see people with like 40 years and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, I just kind of follow what they do. Stick with the people that are doing it right. And if you don't believe it at first, just keep acting like you do. Just keep squeezing out a serenity prayer if that's all you've got. Just, whatever, just try.
God does not make too hard terms for those who seek, or whatever line.
I mean,
just
it's
try it,
literally just do it. Do it when you don't feel like doing it, which I guess is like what you were saying about discipline. It's like you don't always want to do it, but I have found that things are always better when I do, no matter how small that effort is. And that's kind of, I guess, what I would like to leave people with as far as from like, spirituality. I don't have a great, I'm not.
That was my whole sermon, so,
But it's working, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mark. You did really good. Love you, babe. Now comes the time where we pause every week and talk about generosity. So generosity is another one of those spiritual practices where we make our own sacrifices for the good of the bigger community. You can give on the screen behind us, or there's a screen over there, so cash. Give if you're able. If not, keep coming back. Your presence is the most important. And so now we'll take a few minutes to the side to talk heartbreaks. Again, heartbreaks are those things that are just a little too heavy to carry out of here alone. It gives the other people in the room the opportunity to pray for and support you. There's usually a little pause between heartbreaks. It's so funny, this side of the room is very heavy tonight, so sorry if I'm ignoring y'all. So there's usually a pause between heartbreaks. Just take that as an opportunity to pray for or send good vibes or whatever you're comfortable for the person who shared before you. So go ahead and raise your hand and I'll bring around the microphone.
want to thank you guys for being there for me earlier, and I appreciate you guys.
Yes, absolutely. Prayers for you, Chrissy, as you navigate a situation that wasn't fun to be in. And just know that we're all here to support you.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah. So I've been here often, and I talk about that friend who's still in addiction. With my therapist, I had to write her a letter to kind of explain that I can't talk to her anymore. And we were in a relationship for 6 years, so I'm a little nervous. Because she lost her mom, and then I was kind of the only one there for her. But she spent most of my 20s. I was with her. But I have a lot of anxiety with having that conversation. So
Well,
just prayers.
Yeah, prayers for both of you as you navigate a challenging situation. But also that you know that sometimes when you do what you have to do, it's not easy. Any others? Any others? Well, as usual, we'll make sure we keep the people in our prayers that have been in this room before, or maybe will be in this room in the future, and all those addicts that we know that are still suffering out there, and just prayers that they'll find a way. So, and now we will close with Inae's third step prayer. If you'll join me as we pray, just take whatever stance is most comfortable for you to praying. A lot of people like to hold their palms open. Close their eyes. Whatever stance makes you feel as you embody the prayer. If you'll join me. Take my will in my life, guide me in my recovery, and show me how to live. Oh, I was going to say, I'm surprised I didn't hear any cleans. Okay, well, thank you all for coming tonight. If you had a meaningful experience, please don't hesitate to bring someone with you next time, and I hope to see you all back next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.